I know the Michaels don't like supernatural wrestling, but can I get your genuine thoughts on the Nightbird storyline? And if you followed any of the QR codes. Cheers again, lads. Don't know where I'd be without you. If you're ever down south, my local shop has Mountain Dew Pitch Black. Hi to Stuart from Worthing. Thank you, Stuart, for that.
Thanks, Stuart. We sort of touched upon this a few weeks ago when the QR codes were first dropping. And it's really difficult because, listen long enough, I think we're kind of honest in our appraisal of this sort of stuff generally. As recent as the Cope House of Black stuff, it tends not to work that well. And yet, anything Bray Wyatt adjacent is sort of stuck in it. You sort of have to, don't you? And it's a worthy thing to try. I think Bo Dallas, created a certain different atmosphere around himself and his name and everything when, Bray Wyatt passed and when you saw the documentary and all that, and you kind of look at that man's life and you think, this is worth a go. He is. If there's going to be one person that is absolutely as passionate for all of this as Bray himself was, it's probably him. Why not? But you are asking a lot for this to work. I still think there's a lot of disparate pieces here, a lot of failed pushes and projects all coming together at the same time. And historically, wrestling, it's not a magic wand effect on those failed prospects. I'm thinking of something like the Social Outcasts. That idea was predicated on the idea of 4 losers, but when they come together, it's 4 losers. There's not a great history for that working out all that well. The 3-man band, they're the new brood to follow on from the not that successful first brood, as Sid has been pointing out lately.
Yes,
it's going to be an uphill battle from the beginning. Gangrel and the Hardys, when they left Michael Hayes behind for Gangrel's magic. This is the thing. It's this worked out so well when they left you. We're going to have a go on this.
Yeah.
It's going to be an uphill battle, but the one thing they've got going for them, and maybe Stuart's email is an example of that, is an awful lot of sentimental goodwill from the people that want this to work. I have not followed the QR codes, but I have followed the accounts that follow the QR codes. That detective work still goes on. Not to the extent of the White Rabbit. What's it called again? The Nightbird.
Yes.
It's not been like a White Rabbit phenomenon, but then I think it's because Bray was at the centre of that.
Yeah.
They will be given every chance to succeed. I just find it hard to believe they will.
No, I don't think it's going to succeed either, and I don't think that's necessarily as a result of my genuine bias against supernatural-themed storylines and how they break the world of WWE, which is heightened and silly, I guess, not so much these days. It just doesn't work in that context. You always use the thing, if you are a supernaturally powered performer in a wrestling setting and you don't win every single match, you are terrible, and you are you're just wasting your gifts of the ability to break the world as we know it.
Nobody calls the police ever. Wait a second. Every rule of science we know has been broken.
Never makes any sense ever. The Undertaker at his goofiest was the Undertaker at his worst. Yes, he did the odd parlor trick stuff in the streak years, and I think a lot of that was driven by sentimentality and just the acceptance that the Undertaker is this living legend or whatever, and the fans just kind of went along with it. But the Undertaker worked as well as he did for so long, not because he shot lightning out of his hands or because he came back to life. If anything, when he did that stuff, he was really not that over or a draw or anything. Thank you, Mick Foley, for saving his career. It was when The Undertaker was working with Shawn Michaels at Bad Blood and Hell in a Cell, where he looked like a great old one, when Shawn Michaels looked like a guy petrified for his life being stuck in that structure with that guy. It requires great wrestling to work. It always has, it always will. The thing is, even if you can get away from the stupid trappings, I'm sorry, I know you probably are invested, birthday boy, in supernatural stuff. If you're asking us a question, I don't begrudge anyone for enjoying this. I really, really don't. Shut up, you. I don't. It's just not my thing. But even if you take away the aesthetics and maybe some of the special effects, and you can just think, well, there's a substance behind the character, which I'm not as big as fan. There undoubtedly was behind The Undertaker, right? You can go so far with this gimmick or with this sort of deal if the performer has their own sense of intimidation, where it's like, right, I don't believe that The Undertaker can come back from the dead, but he's such like a tall, hulking, strong dude who's kind of convinced himself he has these powers of recovery. I can buy that Shawn Michaels is scared of him, even if I can't buy the powers.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. It's Dexter Lumis.
Yep.
Dexter Lumis could wrestle for 1 trillion years and not do anything like The Undertaker did in Bad Blood 1997. Just because he can't blink, I don't find it intimidating. Nikki Cross has the similar ability to just do nothing with her face. Cool. I don't like sort of boring people in admin who could do that, and I wouldn't want to see them in a wrestling context. Do you know what I mean? It's not an impressive feat for me. Bo Dallas, he doesn't even have the size. Look, it's a nice idea what they're doing.
We like Eric Rowan.
Eric Rowan's absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome.
I'd like something to go well for Joe Gacy. The man is sort of
very talented.
He's owed one, I think, by the system a little bit.
He's very talented. There's talent there, but like, you have to be as good as The Undertaker was in 1996 and 1997. Thank you again, Mick Foley, for that. For this to remotely work. The thing is, as well, this is not a WWE bias. I hate the fact that the House of Black can teleport. I hate the fact that there is genuine magical property within the black goo that changes people's personality. We saw it with Sky Blue. I think it's ridiculous, personally. The House of Black in trios matches, rock. Brody King and Buddy Matthews in singles matches, rock. Whenever they do any kind of promo, I don't think there's any deeper meaning here. I think you're talking nonsense. I don't like it in AEW. It persists. TNA are trying it. I'm not saying that's the reason why they are potentially going out of business, but it can't help.
Yeah.
It's not going to work with Dexter Lumis and Bo Dallas. It just, I'll show me Arsene Fenix window if this works. It might work in that people will be nice to it. This act headlines WrestleMania. Like, no. I'd put a lot of money on it not happening.
It's like, I think it's worthwhile with your Undertaker.
Happy birthday. Sorry for being a miserable bastard. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
You know, we're doing a bit of wrestling analysis around characters that often don't feel
Look, it
like
hasn't
they
happened
belong.
yet.
Yeah.
I might be doing this in a
like,
month.
We're using history
Yes.
and other examples around characters that don't often fit in wrestling despite trying to, and despite wrestling loving it, because occasionally with someone like a Bray Wyatt, it's a merch mover. It really connects with, you can't even call it a cult following, an enormous following of people. But like Sidge's example of The Undertaker there, invoking Mick Foley and Shawn Michaels is sort of perfect for me, because, and this doesn't just apply to any gimmick, it can apply to any wrestler, but often when you talk about, that was great. Well, yeah, like Mick Foley and Shawn Michaels, you were talking to two of the all-time star makers ever, two of the all-time best ever. So if those, even if it was just that, and like The Undertaker didn't do other great stuff, like again, in one case with Shawn Michaels, but like you are requiring for that to work, this example, this Nightbird, you are looking for, in an ideal situation, talents on a level of a Mick Foley and a Shawn Michaels to help get some of this over the line when the bell rings. You could argue WWE doesn't even have them, but if it does, do you want to give your, like LA Knight was right. LA Knight
You could put Will Ospreay in there with Bo Dallas, and I'm not going to find him scary.
And this is it. And would you even want to do it?
You could put Darby Allin in there.
Yeah.
With Dexter Lumis, and I'm not going to think he's scary.
I'd want to watch it at least, but I wouldn't be scared of him, yeah.
Finn Balor was in the perfect position to be sacrificed to the Fiend when he first showed up, I thought.
He was, and he was credible, yeah, but in a position where he could absolutely, because he was about to turn heel, I don't think there are many wrestlers in this very, very hot babyface territory era of WWE that I would want to see on the wrong end of the Nightbird stable, like, so just reeling them off for Money in the Bank. Like, LA Knight was one the last time in the Pitch Black match, and even he could go, right, I'm kind of done with that sponsorship nonsense. Like, you don't want a Jey Uso.
It wasn't nonsense, that's just delicious drink.
Oh, it's a delicious drink.
I do love the drink.
It's changed all of our lives. But the LA Knight character had to kind of get himself as far away from that as possible to retain his cool that he built up. A Jey Uso ideally does not want to get caught in the mix with this, because that character probably doesn't survive it. Cody Rhodes gets through it, and then you're a bit like, right, what's Cody on to next? It's just, that's something they're working against as well. It'll be the all-time Triple H booking flex if this one gets over properly and sticks. Like, I can't think of examples that have been up against as much that have succeeded. So I don't think it's going to work.